Yeah. Let's go.
My name is Sheik Mozart and I'm here to explode important media topics with kids ministry pros. Whether you got a mega budget or just minimal dough. Welcome to the Kids Church Visual Show. Hello and welcome to the Kids Church Visual Show with Sheik Mozart. I'm Sheik Mozart. This is a show that wants to help you visually communicate the gospel to your kids. On this episode, we're going to explore the relationship between visuals and Gen Alpha. But first, let's hear what you had to say. What is your favorite thing about this generation?
I think my favorite thing is that they really want to be a part of everything. They want to be like a part of the mission. Like if we give them the tools, like they want to serve. They want to be answering the questions. They want to be a part of the ministry. And I think that if we're equipping them, they are going to be like the best serving generation as long as we're letting them start serving now.
I want to say their attention span, but I'd be lying. It's gotten less and less. You know what? I think part of it's the creativity. It is keeping me probably fresh because I have to tap into new ways of creativity because, man, some of these kids are so vastly more creative than I feel like I've ever been. And so trying to include them and then they really want to be those this is my experience. There are a lot of them that really want to be involved. They're not just there to watch. They're not just there to because they have to be. A lot of them are there because they really want to be, but they want to be a part of it.
The curiosity, the wonder. I think kids are searching and they don't know what they're searching for, but they know they're searching for something. And so that's where we're doing a lot with science and trying to hit that curiosity thing and creativity. Like curiosity and creativity is just something they're longing for and that hands-on thing that they're not getting.
And I find it interesting that people are afraid, might be a little scared to step in and help with children's ministry, but these kids are easy. I mean, give them some balloons, some streamers, they're going to have fun. I mean, they're just so willing to have fun and jump in and be a part of what you're doing. Just show them a little attention and they're there. I mean, I guess their willingness is what I love. They're just so willing.
I would just say how genuine they are. They all just want to be the best version of themselves and they all just want to make an impact in the world. I found out recently that it used to be the biggest fear in the world was public communication. But now looking at this generation, their biggest fear is if they're not making a difference. And I just love that. They just truly want to make a difference with their lives. And they just are genuine about it, which is so cool.
Probably their curiosity and wanting to know how things work. I love how curious they are and they're not okay with settling for an answer that someone just gives them. They want to figure out why and they want to be the ones to figure out the answer themselves. So I love that drive for learning that comes from that internal space of, no, I just want to know because I want to know, not because I'm supposed to know for a test or I'm supposed to know to get a degree, or anything like that. It really comes from inside them. And I think that's so cool. I love that about them.
My favorite thing about this generation is that they do not have borders or boxes. They're willing to take a risk and go out on a limb on what they cannot see for Jesus.
Honestly, they are very loving and they are very much open to you having a relationship with them. They're not closed out. They're not blocking you. They're not kind of blinders on and guard up when they walk in. They're ready to be loved and they're allowing us to step into their life a little bit more. And I just love that about them.
They're fun. I love kids. They're fun. You get to hang out and have fun with them and relate to them on their level, which is different than our level. And that's okay. So I just love kids. Any generation, I'll take them.
Favorite thing about this generation is they've got a wild imagination. They don't understand limits. We've gone through my generation, and my generation being the millennial generation, followed by the Gen Z generation, has been taught very, very much that you can do anything you set your mind to. And now we've kind of crossed into the third generation where that is possible. So they don't feel normal and limits that my generation and above might have experienced. So they're the motivation that's capable to giving them the tools of, hey, you can reach as many people as you want for the Lord. You can do whatever you want for the glory of God is one of the most exciting things, and it's just a matter of putting them in the right direction. Like, hey, here's a way to glorify God. Run for it. There's no limit to what you can do, and when you add God to the mix, it's just expounded infinitely.
Hello and welcome to the Kids Church Visual Show with Sheik Mozart. I'm Sheik Mozart, and I've got a very special guest that is here with me today. We've got Nicole Howard, who is the founder of Pathfinders Discipleship. She's a children's ministry consultant. She's a thought leader on working with this generation. Nicole, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Hey, yo. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah. So I guess as we get started, tell us about who you are. Tell us how you got into ministry, all that stuff.
Okay, so all the good stuff in a short amount of time. You got it. So, of course, that's what we do as children's leaders. But
That's right.
Started at 17, kind of got dropped into it, fell in love with it, never left, leveled up from volunteer on a half a Sunday to now what we would consider like a life pastor, because the children and teens that I interact with, I don't ever hand them off. Like they always have access to me, hence life pastor. And so then from there, I just really had a heart for children's ministries that are in chaos, merging churches, church plants, portable church. So I've done some of everything, and I'm really super excited to be able to give that back to other children's ministry leaders and be their support for that me, myself, and Jesus team that many of us have.
Yeah, right. Now Pathfinders Discipleship, you have like a really interesting setup. It's not like the traditional church kids ministry. So tell us about it.
Okay, so my other hat that I wear, if there's other hats we wear, is in foster care. So I encountered a lot of children that are military families, high transition families, foster families, and they're leaving churches left and right, just like they're moving residencies. So I just thought, like, wouldn't it be great if it could just go with you? So it being 100% online allows for that transition. It's everywhere they are. As all they need is internet access. And even if they don't have it, the library does. So there's always a point of access to Jesus in their mind. Literally, Jesus is in their pocket. So we just went from the flat Jesus of pandemic to having Jesus on their phone and like interactive Jesus. Like, hey, I have a question. Hey, I'm studying this. Hey, I have this question that I don't want to ask out loud somewhere, but I need answers, and so that's what we're available for. And it's just it's been really, really amazing watching it do what it does.
So did you get started during the pandemic?
I did. I would say I had a great awakening, online digital missionary, if you will. Just in that moment, I was like, I think this is when this should be birthed. I think this is it. This is that moment. And so we got out and we started doing it. And everybody was like, you're crazy. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, this is going to work. This is what kids need. Because I don't know if everybody knows, but in foster care, if a kid has a bad day, the first thing they take is Jesus. I don't know why. But so this way, it's in their pocket. You can't go to church, you can still watch it. You can't go to church, you can still ask questions. You can't get to church, still got Bible study. Like it's not gone.
So describe for me what happens in the ministry over, let's say, the course of a week.
So over the course of the week, we'll post material, and most of what we do is behind the scenes. So we're encouraging them to download apps that are available, because just because they're there doesn't mean that everybody knows about it. So we're taking that and making it visible. So I get lists of resources from children's pastors and leaders and next gen leaders that I work with, and I'm like, hey, what is something that you definitely make sure your kids have, and check and see if that's on the list. If it's not, I add it. And then so when a kid calls, they're like, hey, how do I do Jesus every day? Okay, here's an app where you can do Jesus every day. Well, who's going to help me if I have questions? I'm here. And then if I'm not, I can plug them into a church that's in that area, and they're willing to do the same thing. I was like, it's not about dragging that kid to a building, because that's not where their relationship began, and that's not where they are in their milestone. Like, so I need you to meet them truly where they are. And so we have those agreements. They're all verbal. I know these pastors, we've been working with each other. They have the same heart. Like, how do I reach these kids? Because they're not coming to my building. This is why you have that heart, because someone was going to come to your path one day and say, hey, I need you to connect with a kid that's not in your building. And little do you know, like 35% of our ministries that are in building, those kids don't even go to that same church. They go to another church. They come to your church for the things.
Yeah, sure. So how do you get the word out? How do you let kids know that you're there?
Yeah, definitely word of mouth. You know, people who I've worked with, they're just like, oh, who can I tell? You know, someone I come across, they're like, this is great. It's innovative. I know some people already. So it just kind of moves like that. Kind of just like the Christ-like model. Like, he was walking around telling people, and other people started telling people, and it just multiplied in that manner.
And are you, does your ministry operate based out of like in an area, or I mean, I guess with the internet you're global, but what's kind of your preference?
Okay, so I am in Douglasville, so like the Atlanta area for Georgia. So that's where I am. But it's global. I have people in Australia using it. I have people in Uganda using it. So it's kind of gone abroad on its own. I don't claim global. I don't have presence there, but people are using it abroad.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very cool. Well, so today we're talking about Gen Alpha, which is like this generation of kids. So I guess as we talk about that, what are the characteristics that you've seen in this generation?
This generation are digital savants. Like, anything you put before them, brand new program, launch it, they'll know it inside out and be able to fix bugs in it within 24 hours. So that's definitely their thing. They are this conglomerate of authenticity seekers. You know, like, how is this relatable to me? Are you real? What stories do you have? Not the ones you share in public, but the ones that you keep for yourself. Like, who are you truly? You know, I always tell people, you got to be able to bank and cap in the same sentence. If you can't, it's not going to work. They'll see right through you.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think this generation? Because it's, you know, I hear that across the board about how authentic this generation is. What do you think has made them so authentic, or crave authenticity so much?
Well, if you think about it, like, even in our advertisement that we use across the board, us not being us, but us America, it's all based on what we think people should look like, what we think people should talk like, what we think people should wear. And that's not what they're doing. So they're saying, none of this looks like me. None of this operates like me. So where am I in all of this? And so then they begin seeking an authentic identity. So they're like, hey, where's stuff that looks like me? Okay, let's create it. Okay, where's stuff that I buy? Okay, let's go cash mob that place so more people will shop there, and we'll have more stuff like we want. So they're seeking it, and then they're making it happen. So, like, they're not just talking about it, they're going out and they're advocating for it. So I think this generation is just tired of the stereotypical thing, or the baseline thing, or this is going to fit for everyone. They're realizing that it doesn't. And they've seen that whole generation go through that whole drama, and they're like, no, thank you. Take the real route.
And how do you think that social media has played a role in that, in the way that they express themselves, or the way that they connect with one another, and the way that they develop this kind of cultural personality?
Yeah, so social media is a big influencer in its own. I bet if it had its own page, it would have unlimited views. It would have to create another page for a subset of people, because how they interact and engage on there is different than we think as adults. It's different than we think in those previous sets of generations. They are on there authentically and really. They're looking for that same thing in that environment. And if they don't find it, they create it. And it catches on because they're looking for it. So they're using it as a tool for a different kind of social, emotional relationship. Like we always did that learning in school and we're like, oh, it only happens in school. No, they're taking it out of the classroom and into reality. Like this
Yeah.
is how I relate on my media, but this is not who I am when I'm with my family. I know how to switch up. And you have to know
Yeah.
how to operate in different environments. Our work environments tell us
hmm
so much about what we do and how we operate. And so that's becoming their work environment. They are influencers, they're digital creators. So they're learning that if I'm like this authentically over here, then I attract these people that are authentically like me when I'm out there.
hmm
It's relatable.
So yeah, that's deep. That's real deep. So what does that mean then for the church as we want to connect with this generation and as we want to help them find their relationship with Jesus? How do we do that? What's the connecting point between the church and this generation?
It's got to be more live and more interactive. The
hmm
days of stagnant posting and hey, look, we had a great time. They're scrolling past all that. They're engaging with the things where they can actually drop in and comment and it makes sense. I can add my
hmm
post to your post kind of thing. Like
hmm
they want to feel like I was there for it, not I
Yeah.
heard about it. And
Right.
that's where we came from. We were like, oh, look, we had a great, youth night. We did this. And they're like, great, but I
hmm
wasn't there. Scroll past it.
Right.
It's like, oh, we had a great youth night. Add your photo here of you doing it at home. Oh, that's
hmm
going viral because everyone's going to
Yeah.
do it and it's going to group and it's going to group and it's going to group. But to leave them out of the actual experience, I think that day and age is over. Once we came
hmm
through pandemic and we had opportunity to live engage, you can't bait and switch. But
hmm
I love this. This was amazing. I really felt connected. I was lost in my church of 2000. Now I felt seen, and you took that
Right.
away. So they're seeking it. So I think if we
Yeah.
continue to keep that live engagement opportunities for them to share up and share out, I think it'll really take off for our churches. I think the concept of you have to come to my building, and I know it's taboo, but that's not where they are.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not where they are. They could be right across the street from the church and never set foot in the building during your service. They will knock on the door when service is over.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. So then, so we're kids church visuals.
Yes.
Um, how how do you use visuals to connect with this generation?
My visuals are used like for emphasis, attention getters,
hmm
sometimes distraction. Like when I
Yeah.
know like I'm saying something that's hard, I'll throw up a
Yeah.
picture like of a slip and fall and they're like, "Oh, did you see that?" I'm like, "What was that?" Kind of just to bring them back around or lighten up a moment. A lot of the times I use them for what I consider closing folders. I
hmm
may tell a parable in a way that opens up a wound. And I can't just send that kid home with that wound wide open and yearning
Sure.
because maybe that parent doesn't know how to do that. And so I have to
Yeah.
be sure that whatever I open up on the screen, that I close it down the same way. So I use them for emotional open and closers as well.
hmm
But life experiences, like when they can actively engage, like if it's a whole Bible verse and they have motions that they have to do to it, if it's just guessing who likes what. Like if you like this, do jumping jacks. If you like this, wave your hands. And then I ask them,
hmm
okay, why are you waving your hands? I want you to turn around in a circle and see how many people you can see that's not waving their hands. But
Yeah.
like to use it so that it's memorable and it's relatable, because just like we snack when we study for a test, or we may do exercise when we're brainstorming, you have to redo that same thing to trigger that memory.
hmm
So it's the same thing for kids. If I do stuff that you already do, then to trigger the memory from the scripture that's on your heart is a lot easier. You're not trying to remember, like, oh my God, what was that? What was that she said? What was the address for that? And we do that
Yeah.
too. We say
hmm
addresses for
Yeah.
scripture.
For the Bible verse. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah. That's an interesting point because I think that for so long, I've talked about the importance of interactivity in visuals and in the media that you use or whatever, but it's almost like what you're saying is beyond just interactive. It has to be somewhat like self-revelatory.
Yeah.
Um, so how do kids respond to that stuff?
The most important part is that they take it and put it in their discipleship toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever I showed them or whatever I engaged them with or whatever they had the opportunity to have a live experience with, it was something that wasn't embarrassing for them. It was something that was easily accepted, and they got to try it out in front of a group of peers, if you will. So when they take that and they go into the public and the community and their schools and the parks, the places they hang out, and they want to show that, there's no fear in sharing about Jesus. There's no stereotype on it. You're not doing that church thing. It's relatable to something that they're already doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're eating it up. They're like, what are we going to do today? Like they're coming
Yeah,
in.
sure.
I'm having to lay out my lesson plan. Like, so what are we doing
Sure.
today? How about God's got the plan and we're going to go with it? They're like, no, you have a plan. He gave it to you. Because I tell them,
Yeah.
I said, everything comes in a download. So when we're talking to God, he downloads and we upload. So if you're quiet, he can download and tell you exactly what he needs you to do and exactly what you're going to have to say. So you don't have to be worried about it. You don't have to be stressed about it. You say what you need to say because it's what God would have said and you're going to be okay. And they're like, okay. So when they come in, they're like, so what did God say for the lesson today?
Yeah.
So they're
That's
excited
nice.
about it. They really enjoy it. I have parents that still call me from past events and they're just like, when are you coming back to our area? When are you going to do this? Is there going to be another this? So however they're relating that to their parents, that excitement about the love of Jesus still remains.
Because your ministry is partly online, but there is a live component.
Absolutely, yes, because we know just from life that people learn differently. So I need hands-on experience. I need to be there with you, or what we refer to as IRL in real life. So we do those. We have those. We'll have a Christmas camp. I'll do VBS. Our newest adventure will be public VBS. So we're actually going to take over a park and just have it out there.
Yeah,
Registrations are a passe thing. People are not registering for VBS. They will show up at your door and just be there. And so we want to do more stuff like that. And that allows for the freedom to talk about Jesus. We're here. If you want to talk about it, here we go. You don't want to talk about it? How about you learn about it through play and you won't even know you're doing it. So they enjoy it.
And what is your setup look like for these events as far as like, you know, what's your order of service, if you will, if you have that? What's the like visual setup? How does all that work?
Okay, so the non-negotiables are always the Bible story. That's going to be in there. The altar call, prayer time, whatever you want to call it, but we call it heart moments. So where are they putting their heart? So we have that in there, and then there's something that I want them to think about. So there's a question, and they don't ever come in a set order, but these are the things. And then there's like, hey, the one thing I want you to remember, and it's some short phrase or slogan, and that's like all week. So even if they run into each other, I just challenge them, okay, if you say nothing else to somebody that you're passing, just say this. And they're like, okay, because we just learned that in the Bible story, and then we did that game, and they never forget the games. You got to keep your games in there. One time I had all the kids, I'm so sorry. One time I had all the kids dress up as soldiers and tell the story about rebuilding the wall, and the little boy went to school and reenacted the entire story for his teacher. And I was just like, okay. And so I mean, but it was great because that's how Bible Club ended up coming to their school. So then parents signed up and other kids got to experience what he experienced at church on Sunday. They experienced it at their schools on a day during the week. So the service in itself has its non-negotiables depending upon who is doing it. But the order should never be the same. We can read the Bible so many times and come up with new revelation. So if your service, if the kids can read your service and know exactly what's going on, something's not right. Switch it up, change it up.
And when you do it, do you have the kids like sitting in chairs or sitting on the floor? What does the physical layout look like?
So sometimes they're floor. You know, it depends on where I am. So sometimes they're floor, sometimes they're chairs, sometimes it's those risers. You know, other times we've had them on pillow cushions. If I'm really going for immersion, which I love doing that, I use my visuals to create immersive scenes. Then if we're in Matthew's party with Jesus, they're all at small tables with pillows seated on the floor, and this is how we're having it. If it's the big banquet, then we're looking like we're getting ready to have Thanksgiving and they're all seated at the table and there's a place for Jesus and we talk about the Bible story in that manner. But however there are points in the life of delivering this that it has to be, get somewhere where you're comfortable. Because if I have an ADHD kid or a kid with autism or a kid with some other type of disability, they're moving and doing everything. They need that. So I
Yeah.
have to open up the floor for them to be able to move.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
I need it.
Yeah. I was thinking, me too. I need to be able to spread out.
Yes.
What about the resources that you're using? Where are you getting your ideas, your resources, products?
Okay, so I take my cue from church visuals. I do
Hmm.
other thought leaders like Worship House Kids and was it Church Media, because you can gather inspiration from anywhere.
Hmm.
My creations are either in Canva or there's an app that I love to use, Poster My Wall. I love them.
Hmm.
And then you can go so far and just have a free account. So those are great places. And then there are behind the scene things that most people don't ask. If you call a curriculum provider and say, hey, we're a small out of line church, we don't have a budget, this is what
Hmm.
we're trying to do, can you help us? There is some package, something somewhere that they can give you that it will be super low cost or no cost at all.
Yeah.
And that I discovered a lot of that during pandemic. And one of the providers that really helped with that was Orange.
Hmm.
Another provider you could use is Sermon for Kids, True Way Kids,
Hmm.
and a lot of their content is already available. Every single person's scope and cycle, scope and sequence for the year or 3 years is available online for free. So it's going to
Hmm.
give you a virtue or a word for the month. It's going to give you a scripture, and it's going to give you 3 or 4 points, 4 or 5 points, depending upon how many weeks in the
Hmm.
month that you can teach on. So all you're doing is
Right.
expounding and building off of that, but the layout is
Sure.
there and you can flip it. I flip them. If I'm coming in and I'm like, you know what? We just left this and I'm really feeling like we need to talk about that. Take that month, move it up, and take that one, move it back.
Yeah.
We'll create
Sure.
another one, so that'll be 5 weeks. But
Hmm.
those resources have just been invaluable to me. Like the first 3 years of online ministry was just jam packed of everybody free that was quality and could get me creative. So
Yeah.
that's what I did.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, when you think about like 5, 10 years down the road, what what do you think that visuals, kids ministry visuals, kids church visuals will look like, or should look like, or could look like?
I envision that we all will reach a place where touchscreen is necessary, or we'll be
Hmm.
using whiteboards, because to be able to real time interact, to
Hmm.
cause for there to be change when they make a choice, like those alternate ending books where we could flip to the
Hmm.
other ending. So what if we
Right.
could just flip it to the other ending? That would be that's probably the most ideal place where this is going to go. Majority of our curriculums are already offered at a cheaper price if you do digital than if you order
Hmm.
the disc or get the books. The newer ones that are coming up, they're not even doing books, so we're going digital. I was like, I
Yeah.
think about those songs, "Ready or Not, Here I Come." Like,
Hmm.
ready or
Hmm.
not, we're going digital. So let's
Yeah.
do it. And that's a great place, just a plug, where you can use your students in your children's ministry because they already
Right.
do digital.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So as we begin to wrap it up,
Yeah.
what are some final thoughts that you have when it comes to connecting with this generation of kids?
I'm really gonna go back to that bank and that no cap, like being real with kids. There we as adults learn ways to share our stories on all different levels. We've gone
Hmm.
through things as middle schoolers, high schoolers, elementary, preschool, daycare, just life stuff. And I think we hesitate to share those things because of the vulnerability that it takes for it, the exposure that we're laying on the table. I think
Hmm.
this is a generation that needs that. They're begging for that. Hope is the number one thing that they're looking for when they're going to churches.
Mm.
Is there anywhere in here where you're talking, you're hope dealing? If you're not hope dealing, I'm not interested in joining your group. I'm not interested in serving. And I think that we need to relook at how people get involved with churches. We may have to have meals with people before they ever come to a small group, before they ever study a Bible before they ever set foot in our church, before they ever serve in a serve group. They may serve in a serve group and never come to a church service. We have to be settled in the fact that we are the version of the Bible that's walking and living through Christ Jesus, that's going to minister to them and that's going to reach them where they are.
Yeah, I love that. So if people want to reach out to you, if they want to see what you're doing, what links, where can we find you online?
Okay, so I am at, I think it's PFD_life on Insta, and it's Pathfinders Discipleship on Facebook. So I'm in those places. And unfortunately, I do have the free site life, my GoDaddy. So it's Pathfinder, no S, discipleship.godaddysite.com.
Okay, got it.
And then, of course, we have a number. So I think that's easy sometimes. It's 406-608-LIFE. And those letters translate to 5433. So 406-608-5433. And
that way people can reach out to you directly.
Yeah. Anytime. Text, call, like that line is hooked to my cell phone.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for sharing your heart and your vision, your passion.
Thank you for having me. This has really been amazing.
Thank you for joining us on the Kids Church Visual Show with Sheik Mozart. I'm Sheik Mozart, and I want you to know your Kids Church visuals matter. This has been a podcast presentation of Church Visuals, executive produced by Carl Barnhill, hosted by Sheik Mozart, edited by Brett McLemore, title and show graphics by Jason Merrick. For more training to help you communicate the gospel to your children's ministry, visit churchvisuals.com.